The Exorcist III. This is the 2-disc limited edition from Arrow Video. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the two different cuts of this film, which is included in this set. So there's the theatrical cut, and then there's what's called Legion, the director's cut. So basically Legion was the title of the book, the William Peter Blatty book. He wrote the book for the first movie, The Exorcist, of course, directed by William Friedkin. And he decided to go on and direct this one himself, Exorcist III. It's kind of like not a muddled story, but it's an interesting backstory to this movie. And the first disc, the theatrical cut, contains all the bonus features on this release from Arrow. And there's a making of, which is broken up into 5 parts. But basically, when you watch the whole thing, it's just short of like 2 hours. It's a really interesting look into the backstory of The Exorcist III, which was originally just going to be called Legion, based on the book, and have nothing to do with Exorcist III. Until they decided to sort of throw the Exorcist III title there onto the movie, and then, you know, kind of the parting of the ways between director and studio into sort of what happened in terms of a theatrical cut and the Legion director's cut. But I just thought I'd share some sort of thoughts on, you know, I've watched both versions of the movie, and I've made a couple of notes just of interest out of the making of this. Just basically, if you haven't seen the director's cut of this may kind of contains some spoilers. I don't know if you have watched both cuts or you're aware of both cuts, then maybe, you know, it might interest you. The video might interest you into picking this up. Jason Miller wasn't going to be in this at all. So Jason Miller is the priest who in the first Exorcist goes out the window and down a flight of stairs. I think they sort of, Brad Dourif mentions in the bonus content that Jason Miller was kind of an alcoholic at the time, and maybe a bit down on his luck, and sort of, you know, that sort of thing going on. And basically, William Peter Blatty wanted Jason Miller for the movie, but because he was an alcoholic, it wasn't going to happen. So Brad Dourif is cast, or Dourif, however you pronounce his name. You guys know who I'm talking about. He was cast by Blatty then to kind of take that role of the Gemini killer / Jason Miller's character, Father Karras. Brad sort of mentions in the making of, I think the studio just basically didn't like him, and they sort of they cut his scenes out, brought Jason Miller in, filmed the stuff. Jason Miller wasn't going to work, so they bring Brad back in to reshoot the stuff Jason Miller has done. So it sort of ends up being a kind of an absolute mess, and hence the two kind of cuts of the movie. But what I wanted to talk about was the I've seen both cuts, and maybe quite controversial to some watching the video, but I actually prefer the theatrical cut of The Exorcist III compared to the director's cut. So how they've done this is they've done a 2K restoration on the theatrical cut. They have done a high def presentation of Legion, the director's cut. Basically, some of the elements shot for the director's cut version of the movie is only available in VHS format. So when you're watching, you're kind of getting that nice HD picture, and then because most of the director's cut is based off of that 2K scan restoration they've done for the theatrical cut, and then you have kind of the crops down to the 4:3 VHS aspect ratio footage, which is really bad. Like, it's standard def, so it doesn't look very well. You can still get the gist of what's going on. I was surprised at how much stuff was not in the director's cut that ended up in the theatrical cut. There's some great stuff. What I do want to talk about is the fantastic speech by George C. Scott. I believe in slime, I believe in death. And little known fact, maybe not a little known fact, but Guns N' Roses used that speech to kick off their Rock in Rio gig. I believe it was in 2000, or maybe it was the 90s. Rock in Rio in Brazil, Guns N' Roses used that whole speech as an intro to go into Welcome to the Jungle, if you weren't aware of that. I always thought that speech, fantastic speech, and it's not in the director's cut of the movie at all. It's in the theatrical cut. The whole exorcism is only in the theatrical cut, not in the director's cut at all either. I'm trying to pick out things. I don't want to kind of go into every little difference between the two, but yeah, there were just some kind of standouts. And I mean, other sort of standout scenes in both versions. The ceiling crawl, the old lady crawling on the ceiling behind him when he's in the hospital. Fantastic stuff. The hospital shears, walking across the hall, everybody knows that scene. Really, really great scene. And as I mentioned, the speech, George C. Scott, fantastic stuff. Oddly enough, the thing I found weird about the director's cut Legion of Exorcist III is, so we're led to kind of believe Brad Dourif's character is the Gemini killer, but it's also Father Karras, Jason Miller from the first movie. But where it kind of lost me in the director's cut is that basically I don't believe Jason Miller is in the director's cut at all. Maybe one little scene where he's kind of head down in the room in the shadows, but for the most part he's not in the director's cut at all. And there is some deleted scenes, a whole different sort of opening where they bring in the Father Karras' body after the first movie, which was a whole opening to Exorcist 3. A deleted, an alternative opening scene to the movie, and they just kind of, I guess the doctor's doing the autopsy. It's Brad Dourif on the autopsy table, but everyone's kind of going on as if it's Jason Miller, and it just, for me, it just didn't work. I think it worked better in the theatrical cut with both of them, because for me then you can kind of split between the Brad Dourif is the Gemini killer character and Jason Miller is Jason Miller, you know, Father Karras from the first movie. But yeah, I was surprised at how little Jason Miller was or wasn't involved in the director's cut at all. Quite surprising. But yeah, just thought I would share some thoughts on this one. As I mentioned, Exorcist 3 2-disc limited edition Arrow. There's a nice slipcase on this one. And I flipped over the alternative artwork there just to kind of have it a little bit different. And yeah, and they've really, Arrow doing really nice releases. I don't buy an awful lot of Arrow stuff, only every now and again. But they have a nice, I don't know how many pages this is actually. It doesn't say, but there's a nice full colour booklet and writings on the movies and stuff, and some photos and stuff in there as well. Really nice set that they put together. And of course you're getting the 2 discs in there, theatrical cut and Legion director's cut as well. And as I said, maybe controversially, I liked the theatrical cut a bit more than the director's cut. Director's cut was interesting enough, that's why I picked this up. We got this into work and had it for maybe 2 weeks, and it kind of sold pretty well, and I kind of thought, like, I'm kind of interested to see what this director's cut's all about. So yeah, if you're kind of into horror stuff, or you know, William Peter Blatty or any of that stuff, you might be interested in picking this up to kind of it's interesting to see the difference between the theatrical cut and the director's cut on this one. So yeah, let me know down in the comments if you've picked this up, Exorcist 3, if you've watched both versions, which versions you prefer. Do you prefer the theatrical cut or the Legion director's cut? Always interesting to see which version of when there's alternative versions of movies, which version people liked themselves personally, or why that you like that sort of cut of the film. That's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell if you want to get notified every time I post a new video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you on the next video.